Let us now discuss the questions asked in blood relations, which are very much straightforward. There is a question given in a single line and you have to answer who becomes who to who. These are the questions which appear to be very confusing when you read all at once, but when you split the question and do, you don't require any diagram to draw here, you can directly answer. There are also questions where you have to draw the diagram and answer. We'll discuss those questions later, but let us start with these one-liners. Let us try to understand them now. Suppose the question is, how is my father's mother's only daughter-in-law's sister related to me? Very simple. As I said, when you read all at once, it appears to be difficult. But when you try to understand the question, you don't require pen and paper to answer this. He said, how is my father's mother's only daughter-in-law's sister related to me? My father's mother's only daughter-in-law. My father's mother is having only one daughter-in-law. That means my father's mother is having only one child. That child is my father. My father's wife will become her daughter-in-law. So my father's mother's only daughter-in-law is my mother. My mother's sister is my aunt, and if I have to specify, she is my maternal aunt. I will repeat, please try to observe the question, don't use your pen and paper. He said, my father's mother's only daughter-in-law's sister. My father's mother's only daughter-in-law is my mother. My mother's sister is my maternal aunt. It is as simple as this. Let us solve another question now. Suppose the question is, how is my grandmother's only child's husband's mother related to me? Very interesting question. Again, you need not use your pen and paper. Just observe the question clearly. He said, how is my grandmother's only child's husband? That means my grandmother's only child is female. My grandmother will have a child and she or he should be my father or mother. My grandmother's only child is having a husband. That means here my grandmother's child is my mother. My mother's husband is my father. My father's mother is again my grandmother. So he started from my maternal grandmother and ended with my paternal grandmother. Very simple. My grandmother's only child, she is having only one child. That means that child is my mother because she is having a husband. That husband is my father and my father's mother is my grandmother. But here she is my paternal grandmother. Very simple. Started from maternal, ended with paternal. Let us try another one now. So please pay your attention. Suppose the question is, how is Ramu's mother-in-law's only daughter's son related to Ramu? Ramu's mother-in-law's only daughter should be Ramu's wife because Ramu's mother-in-law is Ramu's wife's mother. Ramu's wife's mother is having only one child. That should be Ramu's wife. Ramu's wife's son. How is Ramu's wife's son related to Ramu is the question. So here your answer should be son. Ramu's wife's son is Ramu's son. You don't take any step relation into consideration until he himself mentions that. If he is not mentioning it, you have to take it for granted that they are plain relations. So here your answer is son. Very simple. I'll repeat the procedure. He said Ramu's mother-in-law's only daughter's son. Ramu's mother-in-law's only daughter is Ramu's wife. Ramu's wife's son is Ramu's son. How is he related to Ramu? The answer is son here. Let us try another one. Suppose the question is, how is Ravi's mother's father's son related to Ravi's father? Very interesting question. Ravi's mother's father's son related to Ravi's father. Just try to split it and understand. Ravi's mother's father's son is Ravi's mother's sibling or Ravi's mother's brother. Very simple. Ravi's mother's father's son. Ravi's mother's father is Ravi's grandfather. Grandfather's son is Ravi's mother's brother because Ravi's mother's father's son is Ravi's mother's brother. How is Ravi's mother's brother related to Ravi's father? Not related to Ravi, Ravi's father. Ravi's father is Ravi's mother's husband. Ravi's mother's husband and Ravi's mother's brother relation is asked. So very simple. For Ravi's father, he will become wife's brother. Wife's brother is brother-in-law. So your answer for this question is brother-in-law. Very simple question. He very clearly said Ravi's mother's father's son. Ravi's mother's father's son related to Ravi's father. Forget about Ravi's father. Ravi's mother's father's son is Ravi's mother's brother. Ravi's mother's brother and Ravi's father share a brother-in-law relation. So your answer for this question is brother-in-law. As I said, you can also draw a diagram and do. We'll do those kind of questions. After doing that, if you want to apply the same thing here, you can do that. But these are the kind of questions which will become simple with practice. When you split the question and do, you don't have to use your pen and paper. Let us solve few more questions now. Suppose the question is, Divya's father, pointing towards a person, said, he is the brother of my father's only sibling. How is the person related to Divya? Very interesting question. And even here, you don't have to use your pen and paper. Just focus. Divya's father is speaking now, not Divya. But the question is asked, how is he related to Divya? So try to understand, forget about the second part of the question. Let us focus on the first one. Divya's father was pointing towards a person and he said, he is the brother of my father's only sibling. This sentence itself will tell you everything. He is the brother of my father's only sibling. My father is having only sibling. That means my father and should be my father's brother or my father's sister. My father has only one sibling. He very clearly said he is the brother of my father's only sibling. My father is having only one sibling and that sibling's brother should be my father. If my father is having only one sibling, his brother should be my father. So indirectly Divya's father is telling that that person is my father because that person is the brother of my father's only sibling. Brother of my father's only sibling is my father. Divya's father is saying that he is my father. If Divya's father is saying that he is my father, he will be grandfather to Divya. Very, very simple. So that person is grandfather to Divya. So very, very simple. Divya's father is saying indirectly that he is my father. If Divya's father is saying he is my father, that person becomes grandfather to Divya. Let us try another one now. Suppose the question is, my father's only brother's wife's only daughter's paternal uncle is my mother's. Very, very confusing question, but very, very simple one. Again, you don't have to use your pen and paper. Just concentrate. He said, my father's only brother's wife's only daughter's paternal uncle is my mother's. Let us split the question. He said, my father's only brothers. My father has only one brother. That brother's wife's daughter. That brother's wife's daughter or brother's daughter is one and the same. So it should be my father's brother's daughter. My father's brother's daughter will have only one paternal uncle and he is my father. Very, very simple. My father is having only one brother. That means my father's brother's daughter will have only one paternal uncle because from father's side, only my father is uncle to her. So indirectly he is asking us, how is my father related to my mother? My father is my mother's husband. I will repeat the procedure, please try to understand. He very clearly said, my father's only brother. My father's only brother, that is very important. And my father's only brother's wife's daughter. My father's only brother's wife's daughter or my father's only brother's daughter is one and the same. My father's brother's daughter will have only one paternal uncle because my father is having only one brother. That means my father's only brother's daughter's paternal uncle is my father. My father, how is he related to my mother is the question. And my father is my mother's husband. Very, very simple if you split and do it. Let us solve another one now. Suppose the question is, a person who is the husband of my son's sister is. Very simple and very straightforward. A person who is the husband of my son's sister. My son's sister is my daughter. My daughter's husband is my son-in-law. Let us solve the next question. Suppose the question is, how is my son's mother's daughter related to me? Very interesting one and very simple. He said, how is my son's mother's daughter? Try to understand. My son's mother is my son's wife. My son's wife's daughter or my son's daughter is one and the same. He is asking us to find out who is my son's daughter. My son's daughter should be my granddaughter. Very, very simple. Indirectly, he asked us to find out my son's daughter because my son's mother's daughter. My son's mother is my son's wife. My son's wife's daughter is my granddaughter because my son's wife's daughter is my son's daughter. My son's daughter is my granddaughter. Let us solve another one now. Suppose the question is, how is my father's brother's only sibling's mother related to me? My father's brother's only sibling is my father. My father's mother is my grandmother. She is my paternal grandmother. Very, very simple. I explained this before. Father's brother's only sibling is my father himself because father's brother will have only one sibling. That means he is my father. My father's mother is my grandmother. But what kind of grandmother? Paternal grandmother. So it is as simple as this. Let us solve one last one of this kind. Suppose the question is, my mother's sister's son's father's mother-in-law is related to me as. Again a question which looks very complicated but very, very simple. You don't have to use your pen and paper. He very clearly said, my mother's sister's son's father's mother-in-law. My mother's sister's son's father. My mother's sister's son's father is my mother's sister's husband. My mother's sister's husband will have one mother-in-law and that mother-in-law should be my mother's sister's mother. My mother's sister's mother or my mother's mother is one and the same. So my mother's mother is my grandmother and she is my maternal grandmother. Very, very simple. I'll repeat the procedure. Please pay your attention. He very clearly said, my mother's sister's son's father's mother-in-law. My mother's sister's son's father will be my mother's sister's husband. My mother's sister's husband, mother-in-law will be my mother's sister's mother. My mother's sister's mother is also my mother's mother. My mother's mother is my grandmother. Which kind of grandmother? Maternal grandmother. So these are the certain things. When you do it orally, you'll get a complete idea about relationships. That is the reason I didn't put pen on the paper. So you should also not use that for these kind of single liners. But when the question is like a passage, when the question has lot of relations, when the question has some 6-7 members in a set, and who becomes who to who is asked, then we'll draw the diagrams. How to draw the diagrams, what should be the symbols used for the relations, what should be the symbols used for the genders. I'll explain all those things in detail in the next video. Thank you so much. I'm Crisna Chaitanya Reddy. Bye.